It was a dramatic and unprecedented day in court for a murder victim's family and for the murderer himself. On Wednesday, the family of Freddie Farah accepted an unusual justice, but they say it was enough to bring them peace. Farah was murdered in his convenience store 43 years ago. A frail 61-year-old Johnny Miller agreed to plead guilty in exchange for his freedom. And tonight, the victim's only son, Bobby Farah, is talking only to First Coast News, revealing new insight into the decades-old case. Our Shelby Danielson joins us live with the exclusive interview. Shelby.
Anthony, it was here where Bobby Farah says a 16-year-old Johnny Miller found a gun and he wanted to bring it inside of this convenience store where he frequented almost every day just to show to Freddie Farah. He says he started to get nervous when there was another customer at the register here, so he shopped around, brought some cake mix to the counter. He says he started to get more nervous when that customer lingered. That's when he decided to pull out that gun. And then Freddie Farah leaned forward trying to take it from him, but he pulled the trigger and he says it was too late.
A detective walks in that's been a friend of mine for years. He said, "Bobby, I moved from homicide and now I'm in cold case. I'm in charge of cold case." And then he said, "Bobby, I've known you all this time and I never knew your dad was murdered."
That detective was Dan Jansen. The year 2016, Jansen had just walked into this restaurant for lunch owned by Bobby Farah's cousin, where he often worked.
God placed him there that day.
After their brief talk on a heavy subject in this corner, Jansen assigned 2 detectives to the more than 40-year-old cold case.
2 to 3 weeks after Dan and I talked, they actually had a hit on the fingerprints.
Johnny Miller, a street performer in New Orleans at the time, was arrested, but he wouldn't admit to the first-degree murder. Fast forward to December of 2017.
When they told us that she passed, yeah, it set us back. That was an emotional time.
They're told their key witness in their father's murder has died. That struck a chord with Miller.
He came to his attorney and he fessed up to his attorney.
That's when the deal was made. The truth for freedom.
He was willing to sit down and talk to us. I mean, he held up his end of the bargain. I had to hold up mine.
But Farah made his own deal with Miller when the family met with him in prison.
I said, "Do you want to make this right with my family?" And he said, "Yes, what can I do?" And I said, "When you get back to Louisiana, you let all these people know that are trying to raise money for you, you are guilty of killing my father, and that you are the man that pulled the trigger that day."
Miller agreed.
I said, "Listen, you know, you and I have a bond for the rest of our lives." And he looked at me like I was crazy, but he was the last one that was with my dad. God had his hand in every aspect of this deal. Just like when the fire alarm went off the other day, I really think that was my dad, you know, in there, letting us know he was there.
And that was a fire alarm that went off in that final hearing on Wednesday. Of course, it was just a false alarm, and we know after that hearing was over, it was just a matter of hours that took Miller to get processed out of jail and become a free man. We have reached out to his attorney for an interview, but we haven't heard back just yet. Reporting in the Northwest Jacksonville, Shelby Danielson, First Coast News on your side.